Hello and welcome to the podcast, The Pocket Stylist. I'm Lisa Talbot, and today I'm joined by actually a friend of mine who I've known for a very long time. And I was thinking about this, Pippa, when I first told you I was going to start a business as a personal stylist, was in a swimming pool with you when the kids were younger. So
Yeah.
let me introduce you to everybody to Pippa Savoury. She is a high performance coach for professionals. So first of all, it is lovely to see you.
And you.
Tell everybody a little bit about that title, high performance coach for professionals. Just tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Lisa. And I totally remember that swimming pool incident. I
I know.
so clearly, and it was such a long time ago, but
That's about 15
um,
years ago.
yeah, it probably was. Yeah. Yeah. We haven't changed at all. Um, so high performance coaching is around helping professionals who are already successful, who sometimes actually don't feel like they're successful. So on the outside, they have a great job title. People look at them, their family, their friends, and they look at them and think, actually, you've done really well. But often inside, they don't feel like that. So I work with people who are either lacking confidence, they're full of self-doubt, or actually sometimes people have that in abundance, but they want to be even better. But essentially, it's always centered around mindset and feeling good about yourself, and always feeling good about yourself first before anything else. So
Yeah.
that's how I work with people.
And that's really interesting then what you said, because it's about sometimes from a clothing perspective, people can portray the confidence in their clothing. So we could look at somebody, couldn't we, and say, wow, that person looks really good and they look confident. But underneath, the legs are going and the stomach's churning. And that's all about, maybe from my perspective, they use their clothes as like a suit of armor,
Mm-hmm.
because they kind of portray something on the outside, but the mindset is not quite in alignment with the body, is it?
Absolutely. And I remember so clearly when I first was promoted onto a board, I, even at that level, and I knew that people were looking at me thinking, amazing. I would be going into the toilet before a board meeting taking Rescue Remedy. I had the sharpest blazer on and I was looking the
Yeah.
part. But actually, inside, I was thinking, why on earth am I in this room? Like, how did I get here? What am I so special? Why am I so special to be in this room? And I would do that. I would take Rescue Remedy in the toilet before those meetings. I would make sure I wore like a high neck top because I used to get like this stress and anxiety rash. And all those tactics I used to use. And it wasn't really until one, yes, I got more comfortable with it and more used to those
Yeah.
meetings. But actually, I realized, of course, I deserved to be there as much as anyone else in that room. And it wasn't until that moment where I thought, actually, take me as I am. And, I'm not a polished person as a natural personality. I am who I am. And ever since that time, and I've just thought, actually, I'm happy that I attract some people and people think, oh look, that's a good professional person. And equally, if I repel some people, I'm okay with that too. But it is about matching how you think about yourself, and a lot of it's around identity, thinking I am good enough to be here. I deserve a place at this table. And actually, my clothes just make me feel they're just like the icing on the cake,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the important ingredients of what goes on in your mind.
But it's really interesting, isn't it, how there are so many people who think exactly what you just said. Am I good enough? And
Mm.
actually, they may have had a career, spanning over 2 decades, 3 decades. They could even be just on their journey of,
Mhm.
work life or whatever, or coming out of a new business or starting a new business or something like that. But actually, there's always that self-doubt of, am I good enough? But actually, we earn our stripes as we go along, so we are good enough. But it's just how we train our mind to
Mhm.
think, yes, I am.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people have these thoughts actually the more senior they get, interestingly. So you'll look at someone really senior and think, wow, look, amazing. I'd love to be like that. Yet that senior person sat there thinking, crikey, massive pressure. Can I do this?
Mhm.
Self-doubt. And it's so much around how we view ourselves. And with each level of seniority or success or achievement people see on the outside, it's just more pressure to yourself on the inside. And we form these kind of stories about ourselves, not because we're not good enough, but because there's something that's happened. There will be some kind of pattern that's happened in your life, and that you may not even, most of the clients I talk to come with one issue, and actually it's a completely different issue. So until you start unpeeling, peeling back what is going on in someone's mind, they don't realize that there will be something that's happened at some point that's informed their brain, that there's this story that they then tell themselves, that either they're not good enough, they shouldn't be there, who am I to be here, all this kind of self-doubt. There'll be a reason for it. And that's a really interesting thing, and that's why I found this work so fascinating. We're all born completely pure of any thought, and it's only through experiences that informs our kind of subconscious brain and that kind of dictates how we then see ourselves.
And that's what's really that's what's really interesting, isn't it? Because even when you kind of talk to other people, if they've been involved in any kind of therapy or something like that, sometimes the trauma goes back way, way, way back, and it's a trauma that actually ourselves we suppress, we push down, and it's only when suddenly you're, like you said, you might be talking about something else, that the trauma from 30 years ago comes up, because it's something that's been suppressed for years and years. I think it's really interesting because from my perspective, I see a lot of ladies who what they see in the mirror is not at all what anyone else sees, because they'll get dressed in the morning and initially they'll think, oh goodness, I'm not sure I like this jacket because it makes my shoulders look too big, or my trousers make my legs look too short. But actually, because that's what they're seeing back from the mirror. But interestingly, when someone else sees them, they say, oh, I really like your glasses, or I love those shoes you're wearing. And then they start to think, hang on a minute, why are you not looking at my shoulders? Why are you not looking at the length of my legs? Because other people don't do that. They see the person as a whole. So it's really interesting how some ladies have that effect as well. So they could be quite confident maybe in their role as a job or whatever they're doing inside, but they can't get the confidence right on the outside. So there's this real disparity, isn't there, between both of them. So it's about getting not using the clothes as a shield, as an armor, but getting the mindset linked into the clothes so they come together, because that's when it's powerful.
Yeah, definitely. And if they're misaligned, then that something always feels off, whether that is a thought you have or not feeling particularly confident. But it's not to say that every professional person that suffers from some kind of self-doubt or self-worth has a kind of like traumatic incident they have to work on. It could be that you never identify anything like that, but actually you might not think, okay, when I was 6 I had this incident in the classroom. It might not be that specific, but there might be a feeling around what happened back then. And actually then for example, it might be that somebody felt like at school, because actually up until the age of 7 is when our most informed time, if someone was in infant school and they wanted to put their hand up and they were shut down by a teacher, actually as a 40-year-old woman, then in a meeting you might be thinking, actually I want to say something but I'm not going to say it. And it could be linked to that moment, but you don't know that. But it's when those things happen, that's when you're not in alignment. So you could be sat there looking really sharp, looking in the mirror thinking I'm looking good, but actually still not saying what you want to say, because you're not feeling as good on the inside as you appear on the outside. So yeah, it's not that everyone comes to talk about this type of work and thinks, I remember this incident when. It's just these feelings we have and these thoughts we have and stories we have about ourselves. We need to unpeel and find out where they come from. People might think, I don't know where they come from, I just think that about myself. I've no idea. but actually you probably have a better idea than you realize when you start really getting into the depths of kind of reflecting on it. And it's just amazing when people have these breakthroughs and they realize, and then you think, actually, now I can change the way I think about myself.
Yeah.
So
But that's really interesting, isn't it? Because if you think about it, if you're asked to do a presentation, whether it's on a stage to 5,000 people, or whether it's just in a, I don't know, in a room full of 10 people, a board meeting or something, it's really interesting, because that's where sometimes the knees start to knock and people go, oh, I've got to do a presentation because all the eyes are going to be on me. And actually, that's where sometimes I see a lot of clients who say, right, Lisa, I want to feel absolutely fantastic in my clothes, because when I do this presentation, I know if I feel good, I know I'm the subject matter expert, I know I have the knowledge, I'm going to feel so confident in when I stand up. So that's when, again, the clothing supports the person as well. So like you said, you have the alignment.
Yeah. And I think that having been in that situation and have clients in those situations where they do, they wear something that makes them feel good. And actually, if going back to my first example of, like, if someone gets a bit of a rash or an anxiety or feels anxious in some way, or they've got a part of their body that they really don't like, and you help them wear the right stuff so they can take that problem off the table. The next thing might be, okay, I know I'm an expert, but I don't want everyone looking at me. And what if I mess up, or what if I do this, or what if I can't remember? And, like, so many times people practice and they know their topic, and they get on the stage or in the meeting and they're like, oh God, I can't remember what I was going to say. And then you leave and you think, why didn't I say that? And I knew what I had to say. And that's the mindset. That's the kind of sympathetic nervous system, it's called, where you have this fight flight response. And actually, if you don't have the tools to really get that under control and reset that, and you can feel yourself getting nervous and anxious, if you aren't able to reset that and calm yourself down, you will never remember anything, because your brain, that is how your physiological body, that's how it's set up. You just won't. You can be the expert and not remember a thing in the room if you're freaking out inside. So it's those types of tools that you need to think, actually, and the best thing you can do in that situation is, the most simplest thing is breathe, like, really deep. It takes something like 60 seconds, if that, to reset this nervous system, to calm yourself down. And until that's calm, your brain can't think straight. It just can't. So deep breathing, like 6 or 7 deep breaths in and out. And the beauty of that, of course, is nobody knows you're doing it. Like, if you're in a meeting, you think, actually, calm down and breathe deeply, it really does help you.
That's really interesting you say that, because whenever I present, yes, I prepare it all and I practice it all, but I never go in with any notes ever, because the way I prefer to do it is go, right, I'm going to start with A, then move to B, then move to C, and I work through my presentation in my head. But I think because I've done it for so many years, you're absolutely right. The people in the audience don't know what I'm going to be talking about. So they don't know I'm going to cover A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So if I miss out a bit of B, you're absolutely right. I tend not to think, oh, panic. I just go, okay, that's fine. They don't know I've missed out part of B. I'll just carry on. But that tip with you that you just said about that deep breathing, it's interesting, isn't it? Because when we talk about things like that, sometimes you just think, oh, I'm just going to keep talking then, because they won't know. But actually, if you just go, like those deep breaths, reset yourself, you just go again, because those are just like the pauses, isn't it? People say sometimes, just stop talking, just pause, and then go again. And I think that's such a good tip.
Yeah. And sometimes, really thinking about a time when you felt really good, like you delivered something really well, you felt really proud of yourself for speaking up in a meeting or whatever it might be, trying to anchor that. And I use a lot of kind of neuro-linguistic programming. So trying to anchor that into your body, that really amazing feeling, revisiting that, if you're starting to freak out in a situation, is like resetting yourself through the breathing and actually connecting to that moment where you felt really good and you've anchored that into your body somewhere. and it reminds you how brilliant you are, and actually you can do it, and it's all good, and it gives you that confidence boost, and then you're back on track again. So yeah, all these things help, and of course nobody knows you're doing it, which is even better.
And that's almost a bit like having your own little toolbox, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your toolbox of things that are going to help you in all situations, whether you're catching the tube, whether you're walking into an office, or doing a Zoom call with a new client, that the toolbox that you can have of things that you can tap into when you need them most.
Yeah. Well, and whatever works for you. I mean, I have a post-it note in front of me that says 80% done, because I'm a perfectionist and I'm always like, everything has to be absolutely on point. But then that causes procrastination or makes me work 12-hour days because I'm like, it's not absolutely right. And I have to remind myself 80% done is better than not done at all. So it's just little things, whatever your little tips are that work for you, and everybody's different, just make sure you use them. Like, no one knows that that's there. So like, just
do now.
Yeah. I mean, I've said I don't care, take me as I am, it's there. But yeah, it's just these small tools. You're right, it's like your own personal toolbox of things that you can use to help you, and as time goes on and you get more experienced in these things, and their kind of impact and the hold that they have on your anxiety levels actually wears off in the end. It kind of fades away, because that as you repeat these things, that you've got it and you're fine. And it's not always perfect. And I think that's the other thing of like going into a meeting thinking, okay, I'm going to do this today, I'm going to do that today, and I've got it, and then you leave and you think, because most professional people, of course, criticize themselves and beat themselves up about things. And you leave thinking, oh, if only I'd done that, or I wasn't quite good enough at that, and I didn't really get that message across. It's actually this whole kind of self-forgiveness thing, thinking, actually, I did really well. And I know next time, actually, maybe I'll focus more on that. Or the other thing I always think as well, and talk to clients about, is when you're going into a situation where you feel like you might not be completely 100% with it, is really kind of tune into, I always think, begin with the end in mind. So what is it you want to do? And you're leaving that situation, meeting, interview, whatever it may be. How do I want to feel when I leave there? What do I want to be thinking about myself, about the situation? What do I want to have achieved? And really like visualize how you want to leave, and then work your way back thinking, okay, if that's what I want they're my success factors of this event, how can I mitigate anything that might get in the way of that? So what is the goal? How do I want to feel and get out of this? What are the steps I've got to take? What is going to get in the way of that? Let's break that down and work through it and make sure we mitigate that. So yeah, it's a process.
But then when you're talking about that now, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Whereas for some of us who might not have been involved in that side of it, it makes so much sense. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, yeah, because no matter what I do, actually, I don't always look at the end goal. I might know what I want to create or what I want to achieve for a client or whatever. And actually, that's really interesting. I've just kind of talked myself into that, because I always say to a client, what do you want to achieve? So there's the end goal.
Yeah.
So the end goal is, do you want, I don't know, 55 outfits from your existing wardrobe? Do you want 3 new pieces when we go shopping? So actually, if you have the end goal in mind, you kind of know what know what your success is going to be, because if you hit those goals, then bingo, you've got the success.
Yeah.
But actually, along the way, you know what you're aiming for. It's a bit like, isn't it, if you say, I really want to go to Barbados in July, and then you go, right, okay, but how am I going to get to Barbados? Well, I've got to work X number of hours. I want to take the family, I want to go business class or whatever. You have a goal in mind, isn't it? Of whether you're buying a house or whatever. So it's really interesting what you said with regards to that. Having a goal makes the process more achievable, doesn't it?
Definitely. I mean, having that vision, if you don't know what you want from whatever it is you're doing, how can you properly plan on getting there?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether it's a holiday, a really good meeting, a new wardrobe, whatever it is, and like mitigating the stuff that's going to get in the way, because we're very good at saying, this is what I want to do. Okay, I want to go to Barbados in July business class. Yes, please. And then you think, actually, what do I need to do to get there then? Okay, well, I need to, like you say, work these hours or do whatever, save this money. But actually, what could get in the way of that?
Yeah.
And that's the question we don't often ask ourselves. What could get in the way? Okay, well, what if what if I don't get enough work? Or, okay, so how can I try and mitigate some of that stuff? What if this? It's those bits that actually need to break down. And probably, like in your case, if someone, a client says, actually, my end goal is, I just want to feel more confident. I want to try something different. I want to have a new wardrobe. I want to like really have a signature style or whatever it may be. What could get in the way of that? Okay, well, I'm just really used to wearing this color and this style. And okay, so why do you do that? What would it mean if you wore something different? And kind of really, rather than just the practical steps, it's the mindset that goes with it.
Yeah.
So what is going to get in the way? So what are you telling yourself?
And that's really interesting, because everybody tells themselves something different, because as much as, in some cases we want to do something different, there's sometimes things that hold us back. So it's a bit like, yes, personally you could go, I want to achieve this, but actually you've got to get your mindset aligned to achieving that end result. Because if you don't get your mindset right, what's that saying? If you've always done what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always got. So you have to change your mindset to get to that point. And it's interesting, isn't it? From a business person's point of view, a professional person, it could be that, the goal is to deliver an amazing presentation that everybody buys into what they're talking about. And I don't know, it could result in more sales. It could result in a promotion. So again, it's about going, right, what do I need to do to get to that really good performance? It could be, I don't know, it could be a business merger. It could be anything, but then using what's the mitigating circumstances that might get in the way in the run up to that. And it's so interesting when you talk like that. And that's where, from my perspective, getting that mind now, even more talking to you now, I get more about the mindset side of it. Whereas obviously I'm more about the clothes, but actually to have them in line, and for my clients as well to have a mindset that goes, I'm open to change, is so important. Because if you have someone who goes, yeah, I want to go shopping and I want XYZ, but if within 4 weeks they've reverted back to that, then in a way it's not changing their mindset, is it?
Yeah. So what is it that's made them revert back? Is it because they're thinking, oh, everyone's going to be only going going, oh my goodness, she's trying a new style, or judging me, or in some way, and being okay with that? So once they're in alignment, I think if you have professional women, men, but in this case professional women, who are looking good on the outside, feeling amazing on the inside, it's such a powerful force. Not a lot can stop you when you're in that space.
No, agree. And I love that. And I think that's probably the best place to stop our podcast today, because it's, oh God, we've covered so much, because it's the mindset side of it. And, I love your tip about, if you're doing anything, just almost pressing a bit of a pause button and going, right, just pause it, just carry on. And it's such a great thing to mindset. There's so much to it, Pippa, isn't there?
There is.
And we talk about mindset a lot, about the positive mindset, but there's so many intricacies in getting to that point. But in doing, like you said, you're having a little bit of a toolbox and things like that, you can achieve it very, very easily. It's as well, isn't it? It's having the tools and the people to help you get to that. So from my perspective, the clothes match the mindset, the positivity, because I think then you have so much of a more powerful presence about you.
Yeah, definitely. And everyone's different. The breathing thing works as a universal tip, but actually everyone's stories are different that they tell themselves, and the reasons why they do that. So yeah, it's a courageous woman who goes down that road, but actually the rewards are amazing once you get there. So yeah.
Oh, perfect. Before we finish, Pippa, where can
Yeah.
everybody find you? Where's the best place to link up with you?
I would say the best place is LinkedIn,
Hi.
Pippa Savoury. So yeah, you can find me there.
Okay. And in the show notes for anyone who is listening to the podcast, in the show notes are all the details of Pippa anyway. Pippa, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. It was a little bit of a different one for us, but it was just brilliant. Really, really eye-opening. So thank you, Pippa, so much. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed it. Come back next week for another episode, and everybody have a great day. Thanks, Pippa. Thank you. Bye.